All right, we are now recording. Actually, we're recording to the Zoom webinar, but we're also recording live on Facebook. So thanks everyone for being here. I'm Deborah McDonald. I'm really excited about introducing Pamela Barton in a moment. She is a holistic nutritionist and an expert in thyroid issues. So we're going to be interviewing her today so that she can share with us her knowledge, her wisdom, and all the things that you might be thinking of as you're here on as a guest on our webinar today. And so just to give you a little bit about my background, I'm a social business entrepreneur, but I'm absolutely passionate about having health and wellness be a big part of your life because it is the only house we live in, right? And so what I want to do is just let you know that that's why I'm interviewing Pamela today, because health has to be the biggest and most important part of your life. And we're going to be talking about the thyroid issues. I grew up on a family farm. And so for me, taking things from nature and growing organically, everything seemed to just be kind of ingrained in me, you might say. And so I'm very excited about being able to talk with Pamela today. And just, Pamela, if you could get started on telling us a little bit more about your background, like how did you start in this whole thing of nutrition? I mean, you've got such an interesting background. So if I could turn it over to you, Pamela, that would be awesome.
Yes, thank you so much, Deborah. I'm very excited to be here and talk about this topic that I'm so passionate about. So yeah, how come I'm doing what I'm doing?
Yes.
So, I was basically diagnosed with first hypothyroidism when I was pregnant. And I had no idea about it at all. I had no family history of thyroid issues. I wasn't quite sure what that was all about. So my doctor just told me, well, you're expecting you have to take this medication. And so yeah, this is where you go, but maybe after your pregnancy, you'll be fine again. I said, okay, sounds good to me. I took the medication, but then I had my baby and things didn't improve. So the doctor said, well, looks like you need to be on your medication for the rest of your life. Wow. And quite honestly, I felt offended because I was just in my 30s, and I said, what do you mean the rest of my life? Like, I'm planning to get to my 90s, and that seems to be a long time. There must be anything I can do. And so my interest was piqued to look into this whole thing, and I quickly found out that there is an autoimmune component to hypothyroidism, which is called Hashimoto's. And then I started wondering if that's maybe what my issue was. And so I asked my doctor to run some tests, and sure enough, that's what it was. So I got diagnosed with it. And basically then my journey started because I wanted to figure out how I can help myself to feel well, to not progressively get worse, because now I was a new mom. I was just starting my family. You know, I had responsibilities and I wanted to be able to do all the things with my kids. And so I was very, very interested in getting my health back. And that's basically when it all started. I found out that diet and lifestyle and stress and how we see our world makes a huge difference in the progression of the disease and also how you're feeling. And I decided to go back to school, and I attended night classes to become a registered holistic nutritionist, just for that reason. First, to find out what I can do to help myself. And I'm so passionate about it because it actually worked for me. I can say today that I feel very good. I have almost no hypothyroid issues anymore. My lab values are all coming back okay. I was just granted an elite premium for my life insurance because I was so healthy. And I wasn't like that before. So yes, so I know it works. And so I decided to share this with other people. And this is what I'm doing today. So I founded Butterfly Holistic Nutrition and Lifestyle to help people get to their best that they can get.
Wow, Pamela, that is just such an incredible story. I mean, it all started with you and what you had wanted to do for yourself and to find those natural ways to help yourself. And then now you're helping others in the whole thing. So it just gives me goosebumps. So thank you for sharing your story. So let's talk a little bit about the questions that we had posted on the event page.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something you talked about was hypothyroidism and then Hashimoto's. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I didn't know much about it, but what I'm finding is the work that I'm doing in my health and wellness company and business, I find so many people have thyroid issues. I'm not sure which one, but they just say I have a thyroid problem and they're taking medication. So what is it? Could you just explain a little bit about the difference between the two, and what does it actually do to their health? Like what kind of experience do they have in their body with that? So if I'll turn that to you.
Yes. So basically, when you present with common symptoms like fatigue, you might have issues losing your weight. You feel very stressed and overwhelmed. You don't have the energy to do much. You feel very sluggish. You might not have a good digestive system. When you present with you can actually have anything. And I explain in a minute why. And so you go to your doctor and your doctor tests your thyroid, and then he suggests that you might be hypothyroid, which means your thyroid is not performing well enough, so it's underperforming. And he gives you medication for it to basically replace what it's missing in your body in terms of the amount of thyroid hormone you need. And and then usually people go home, they have their medication, and then that's it. And some people feel better when they take that medication, some don't. And so why could you have hypothyroidism? Well, you can have a genetic susceptibility to it. It's basically a metabolic issue. So your thyroid is not performing well. You can have an iodine deficiency, right? You can have some radiation damage to your thyroid. There are lots of reasons why your thyroid might not be performing well. And that's why you get diagnosed and you have these symptoms. And thyroid hormones in the body are really, really important because every single cell in our body has a thyroid receptor. So basically, every cell in our body needs thyroid hormone. It's the thyroid is the top metabolic regulator in our body. So all the metabolic issues that needs to be done in our body on a daily basis have to do with thyroid hormone. So it's that important. And that's also for those people who don't have a thyroid anymore. If it got surgically removed, they have to be on this medication lifelong because we cannot live without thyroid hormones. So that's why people get diagnosed with hypothyroidism. But then there is a difference because we need to know, why is your thyroid not performing well? So is it because it's a metabolic issue, what I just explained, or is it actually an autoimmune process that's the underlying issue? And that is called Hashimoto, and it's called Hashimoto because a Japanese scientist called Hashimoto first discovered that and named this phenomenon like that. That's why it has this Japanese name. And so Hashimoto basically is an autoimmune condition. And when you think of it that way, there are tons of things happening in the body until your thyroid is basically the end receptor of the attack. So maybe your thyroid was okay, but now because your body launches the autoimmune attack, your thyroid starts to struggle because it gets attacked, because your body formed autoimmune antibodies to destroy the tissue. So this is important to know because also when we want to feel better, we need to know what's causing our immune system to be so upset. And there are lots of things we can do. But if we don't know which one we have, and we also don't know what we can do besides taking medications, we will have a hard time feeling better. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always encourage everyone to find out if they have Hashimoto's or not, because that really changes the approach on what we do to help them.
Exactly. And that's where you come in, right?
Yes.
So we were talking earlier of just about the number of people that have it, though. When I'm talking to a lot of people, it seems like almost every second person has, especially women, have some type of thyroid issue. What are the stats like out there that can tell us a little bit more about?
So I have statistics from the US, but actually I believe it can be seen worldwide, because also in Europe we've seen increases in thyroid conditions. So there are a ton of speculation why that is the case, but as of now we estimate that about 50 million people living in the US have some form of hypothyroid condition. And that is about, I would say, about 15% of the population. Mm-hmm. And 14 million of those 50 million are diagnosed officially with Hashimoto's, but there are also a lot that are not diagnosed because people don't know enough about it yet. So actually I read some statistic that they even suspect that 90% of all hypothyroid conditions are due to Hashimoto versus hypothyroidism alone. So it's a huge number, and we are not educated enough. We don't know yet that we should check all these things out. So it might actually be even higher. And also what is very interesting that almost 80% of those people diagnosed are women. Mm-hmm. So it seems that we are more susceptible to getting this. And it makes sense in our whole context, right? I mean, the life we live as women has never been so complex before in history. We have to deal with so many things at the same time that we have stress, we have so many things to take care of, right? There's our environment triggers, there's toxicity, there's demands. So yes, our immune system is under constant, barrage of things.
Absolutely. Well, and women, they basically rule, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, what I want to say is that women are, they make the decisions in the household, all about health, all about wellness and financially and everything else. Like, we're running a really big team, I guess you might say, or an organization in our own households. And even if you have one child or two or three or four or five, or just ourselves, but we've got the daily grind, the jobs, the work, everything like that. And sometimes people don't know what's going on in their bodies, and they're saying, I just don't feel well. And it could be linked to that. So thank you for sharing that a little bit more, Pamela. Mm-hmm. So let's just move on to the next question is, what kind of, diet should we have? What kind of supplements should we use? And what are these lifestyle approaches that we should have? That is a big question. And I know you can only give us a few minutes on that, because people should really consult with you further if they need to know, because at the end, we'll talk about some of the free consultations that she has. But what can we do about our diet? And then we'll talk a little bit about supplements too. So diet and lifestyle, I guess.
Yes. So yes. So why do we even talk about diet when it comes to hypothyroidism, right? There doesn't seem to be a connection, but actually there is, because oftentimes we find people with autoimmune conditions, they have some form of food sensitivities. Mm-hmm. Their digestive system is not working properly. They can have things like leaky gut or bacterial overgrowth. They can be nutrient depleted. We see that quite often. They can suffer from infections, gut infections that hasn't been addressed or healed. There are so many things that diet can actually make a huge difference once we identify what is the missing piece. There's also a thing called adrenal fatigue, right? This is when we feel like we can't handle the stress so well, right? We get overwhelmed right away, and we feel like we can't deal very well with everything that's happening. So we should assess, well, how is our adrenal glands holding up? So that's where a lot of the lifestyle components come in, right? We look at, what are your stressors? How is your sleep? What are your coping mechanisms? So we try and identify what we can do to help ourselves to get into a better state of mind, right? Emotional trauma is a big one too. If we have any unresolved issues, this is just gonna drag on in our system and can contribute to inflammation, which can, accelerate the destruction of our thyroid gland. We don't even think about these things. But it's all connected and it's very complex. Like we could have, for example, some liver health issues. We can't detoxify properly, so we store more toxins than we should. And our elimination doesn't work. And it's very complex, and here's the thing, it's also very individual. I mean, we see trends. We obviously look for certain types of things, but some person presents with one thing and the other person presents with something completely different. So it's always a very unique approach to try and find all the puzzle pieces to get the immune system to calm down. This is what we want to achieve. We want to lessen the acceleration of the destruction of the thyroid gland. So we have to address everything that aggravates the immune system and try and make it more calm. And that would also lead to antibody count go down. And this is what we want to achieve. So yes, diet plays a huge part, as I said, in restoring digestive health and finding the foods that work for you. The type of diet you should be eating to feel your best. We have to make sure that our liver is detoxifying properly as best to our capabilities. Hormonal balancing is a big one as well. Besides the thyroid hormones, there's also the blood sugar, for example, that needs to stabilize for sure to not aggravate our system. And yes, so I talk about stress and emotional issues. So as you can see, it's very complex. Mm-hmm. And yes, and every case is unique, right? We're all biochemically individual, and we have to address what's causing our problem that is very unique to us.
Exactly. And that's where, it's so important to have an expert like yourself so that you can zero in on that person and where they're coming from, because we're not cookie cutter, right? So it's got to be very individualized. So, keep in mind, everyone that's listening today, if you've got, some concerns, or friends or family that have concerns that maybe haven't been addressing them, then you would be the go-to person, Pamela. So we'll post her website at the end. But if there's questions from the audience, just post it into the chat box and I'll be checking that, and then we can ask Pamela a question. Certainly, we want to try and get this webinar, over the next 10 minutes or so. So we have a couple of more things that we want to cover, but so far, Pamela, I am learning a ton. I hope that the people there online as well are doing the same. So give us a thumbs up if that's working.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about supplements a little bit more. So why do you recommend supplements, and it's individualized, right? So, but just generally speaking, why would we need supplements? Because from what I know is that our soils are very depleted and we're not able to get all of the nutrients from our food that we had hoped to, like from say 50 or some 60 years ago. But also, why do we need it? Because, just is it just food, or is it the combination of food, or is it our fast-paced society, all that kind of stuff? So
yeah, I would say a little bit of all of that. So yes, unfortunately, most of us don't eat a very healthy diet. We know of the standard American diet that a lot of people eat, which does not provide a lot of nutrients. Mm-hmm. So yes, it can be that we're not eating the right things. It can also be that our capabilities in the body to absorb the nutrients is impaired. Mm-hmm. So we can eat all the right things and still we're not getting the nutrients we need. So it can be different on how that is the case. Supplements work well for people where we see those nutrient depletions to get them to a better state. For example, our body needs selenium to convert the thyroid hormone T4 into T3, which is the active form that the body needs. So if we're depleted of selenium, then the body doesn't have the resources it needs to convert. So selenium is a big issue with thyroid disease. So if we then take a selenium supplement, and then we can help the body to resume its task and its function. So that's why I like to work with supplements if I feel it's necessary. And oftentimes it is, at least at the beginning. And we also need to think about the diet. Where is this person at this point? And if you, for example, if you present with severe fatigue or anxiety, and I had a client once who said, I'm not going to go to the grocery store. I have so much anxiety. There are too many people. I'm overwhelmed. So I'm having a hard time feeding myself. And also other people say, well, I'm too tired. I'm not going to start cooking, right? I'm not going to start making my own healthy meals. And in that case, I always say it's good that we have supplements and we have other means to help those people get to a better place where then they can start taking care of their nutrition, you know. And we have these great products, for example, from Evolve that help someone who says, I can do a shake and I can do a bar, but that's all I can do for now. Or I can take a supplement to help my hormonal balancing. And then I say, that's great, let's start there and then see, you know, where we can get you. So I use them quite frequently, and yes, so I find it's a good option to have.
Exactly. And people are coming to you wanting to, they know that they go out on the internet and they start Googling things. And then if there's something pops up about this product or that product, or try this or try that, it can be overwhelming for people. So when they come to you, you are going to be recommending what's best for them in their situation. And that's what's so important about coming to you as an expert. Yes. And I can't stress that enough, because you have to have a wellness team.
Yes.
Your nutritionist, your maybe your chiropractor, your acupuncturist, your massage therapist, your personal trainer. It may sound like that's quite a bit of a big team, but we do need them. And maybe not always every single minute of the day or the week, but you will have a wellness team around you. Like I have a naturopath, and I still go to my general practitioner. So we have just a couple questions here. Let's just address them, and then we'll move on to our last question here. So the question here is, what actually worked for you, Pamela? Did you, what was your course? This is from Valerie, actually. And, how did it, what course did you take? Did you have to take a certain amount of time to get the right foods, I guess, that you wanted to, that would work for you? And then did you supplement with some natural remedies at the same time that maybe you were on the medication? Let's just go with that right now.
Yes, so I was my own guinea pig.
That's a good way to put it.
Because I need to figure things out for myself as well. And I also wanted to test certain trends and see if they work for me. So I don't have a very direct course of progress. Mine was more like this.
Well, you were also doing your research, right?
Exactly. I was doing the research because I usually only want to recommend things that I've tried myself and that I feel somehow beneficial. Mm-hmm. Because as you said before, there are a million things you can try, but you don't have that much time in your life to try all these things. Mm-hmm. So what worked for me? Well, first, the hardest part for me was actually to accept and identify what my triggers were. And I lived in denial for a long, long time about that because, I'm Superwoman.
Right, exactly.
I have no weaknesses. I'm always healthy and I know always what to do. So that was pretty hard for me to understand, well, maybe it's not quite like that. There's something that's not working. So for me, it was also soul searching and self-discovery. That was a big part, to figure things out about myself and just to accept them and to embrace them. And also for me, stress was always my biggest problem and still is. I have a lowered stress response, like my body is responding very fast to any stressors, and I had to develop means to be able to calm myself down and say, okay, stay focused, you got this, everything is good. So for me, I had more lifestyle components that I needed to address. And dietary for sure. I did have some gut health issues, which I was also in denial about. And I did a gut restoration program to heal my gut lining, and I had leaky gut, and so I repaired it, and now it's all good. And yeah, so I experimented a lot and to find my way. And I still take certain supplements. I still have a selenium deficiency that I'm correcting. And you always have to go with the flow, and things change over time. You might need different supplements. You might not need any at all at some point. You have to learn how to listen to your body, and it'll tell you what it needs.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really about managing your health, right? So one question that leads into our final question here from the chat box from Valerie again, also then with what we were going to talk about, because she asks, can you take supplements at the same time they're taking their thyroid meds? And so that's something that we wanted to address anyways on the prescription drug side of things.
Yes, so most people I see are on prescription drugs, and when you go see your general practitioner, it's usually Synthroid or levothyroxine is the common medication that you get prescribed. It's a T4 medication, so basically it gives your body what the TSH, that's what the lab value says, stimulates. So it's the T4, but the body still needs to convert it into T3. So it still has work to do after taking Synthroid. You can take supplements while you take medications, yes. It's always good to check with your practitioner if he has any objections, but usually most of the supplements are fine. They shouldn't cause any issues.
Awesome. Okay, good. And so, I mean, I know some people might even take some supplements that are very targeted to deal with the thyroid, and then they possibly could maybe lower their medications or eventually get off of them. Is that something that you believe in too, that can happen because we heal ourselves in a natural way? Or does it depend on the severity of the thyroid issue?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, I've heard of people that were able to completely come off their medication. They were probably at a very early stage. They found their triggers right away, and the thyroid was not damaged enough so it could recover. So I believe it is true. Although I must say, the longer you take them, the longer you are dealing with this issue, the harder it would be. And when I started this, my goal was always to come off of medication. I always said that's my main goal. And I changed this main goal a little bit because ultimately I feel the main goal should be that you feel very good and you can do everything you want to do. You have energy problems, you feel great, and your life is awesome. I think that's the ultimate goal. And okay, if you still have to take medication, so what? I feel like oftentimes we focus on the wrong things. So I always try and tell the people, well, let's work on how you feel first and then talk about the rest later.
And there's also probably some trial periods too that, you might, find yourself getting better with adding that supplement, but then how do you wean yourself off? There's a process. So again, they have to come to you. Now we have questions coming in like crazy. So okay. I'm just going to have, what I would say to the people in the audience is that, chat with us, reach out to us. We're going to send you Pamela's website, but you can talk to her and she will help, consult with you. You do offer a free consultation, a 30-minute consultation on your website, which is butterflyholisticnutrition.ca. And it says it all, butterfly holistic with an H, nutrition.ca. And that's where you will find Pamela. And she has a free consultation. You'll get her free newsletters, they're amazing. And do you also have a free meal plan? How do they get that? Is it within that same sign-up box or is it separate?
So yes, you can get my free meal plan that I created especially for thyroid health. You can get that for free. It's an opt-in on my page. You can just download it. So if you go on my page, it pops up and you can just enter your email address and you get it. And there you can experiment. You can see beneficial foods, because those are incorporated in there. You get new recipes, right? You can try this out. It's all whole foods. That's the main concept that I'm working with, whole foods. We try and eliminate processed foods as much as we can. And yes, and this is a good start to see if you like it.
That was one of the questions. They said, what kind of foods do we need to have? So that's perfect, Pamela. The audience are here in the chat box are saying it's fantastic information, and it's just been a great pleasure to have you on here today. We also have a Facebook group where you can, it's all about health and health stories and so on. So we can add you to that group if you're interested. Just tell us in the chat box. And Pamela, you have a Facebook page as well. Is it called Butterfly Holistic Nutrition?
Yeah. So you can also go. I created a shortcut. Okay. I write it in the chat.
Okay.
So that you don't have to write so much. So you just enter @Pam's Butterfly, and then you get to my page.
Oh, perfect. I love that. And it sounds really cool as well. You know, you have our wealth of knowledge, and I really encourage everyone here today to reach out to Pamela, because just having a free consultation, you'll be able to help yourself a little bit more, and then she'll be able to identify where to go and what the next step would be for you. So thanks again, Pamela, for being on our webinar today, and just really sharing so much value. And we're excited that you've been able to heal yourself and now help others along the way. So I'm going to end the meeting and stop the recording. And again, thanks everyone for being on today, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now. Oops. I'm still having trouble with this.